Hey everyone, it's Arlette from Chasing Joy, and I'm back with another baby making update, and it's basically more good news, which is a good thing. In my last video, I was telling you guys how I had followed up with the endocrinologist, and she gave me the okay from her point of view to start baby making. And she recommended a medication for me because my blood work showed that I was at risk for developing diabetes, even though I don't have diabetes or pre-diabetes right now. But that I was at risk, and I have some family history and overweight. So she had recommended another medicine, metformin, but she didn't want me to start it until I met with the RE, the reproductive endocrinologist, which is the fancy name for the fertility doctor. So today is more good news because I met with the fertility doctor today, and that meeting actually went really well. I called them right away after I received the okay from endocrinologist so that we can get started, and I told my nurse that I wanted to meet up with the doctor to discuss the next steps, and I wanted to take in a copy of the blood work for them and just to discuss everything. So I did that this morning, and it was funny to me that when I met with the doctor and she starts out, she's like, well, I wanted to have this meeting because blah, blah, blah. And I was thinking, wait, I called you to set up the meeting. But, that's neither here nor there. But it does show that we're on the same page in terms of, wanting to actually talk and get a good plan going. So that's what happened today. We kind of figured out a plan for when I start to try again, which is going to be soon. So, but basically what she presented to me was IVF or IUI, and which one did I want to pursue for the next cycle. I get into what was decided. I'll just tell you a little bit more about the appointment. So at first, when I got there, I was nervous because one of the phlebotomists, the lady who draws the blood, called my name, and I was thinking, oh, I didn't think I was giving any blood today. And she says, oh, I just wanted to get your vitals, your height, your weight, and your blood pressure. And I was thinking oh crap, here we go. Because I've never been weighed there. When I filled out my paperwork, I told them what I weighed, and they never double checked it or anything. So immediately I was kind of on the defense. I mentioned in videos before, I've had negative experiences with doctors relating to my weight. So when they wanted to weigh me, I was like, oh, here we go. Now they're going to start blaming everything on me being overweight, or somehow make it be my fault because I'm heavy that I haven't gotten pregnant, or use this as an excuse to try and say they couldn't work with me anymore because maybe I was starting to mess up their stats. None of this is personal reflection on my doctor. I like the lady who is treating me, but it's a business, and these fertility clinics, their big thing is if they can be more successful than other clinics. So it's am I throwing their numbers off, with my failed attempts? So I had all this going through my head when I got weighed, and I was just made automatically nervous. And then my blood pressure was slightly high, and not for, I don't even know what normal high is. It was 138/70, I think. But that's high for me because my blood pressure usually runs in the 110s, 120s over anywhere between 60 and 80. So I just think that was my nerves as soon as I heard I was going to get weighed. But, pleasantly, I won't say surprised, but, was pleased that none of that happened. All the crazy things in my head did not happen. And she just wanted to know my weight because that is actually important criteria for if you're trying to figure out whether to do the IVF. So then in the appointment with the doctor, she basically ran down a brief history of everything that had happened. So kind of a refresher. And then she started to talk about the IVF and discuss that, a little bit about doing another IUI, and then she asked what did I want to do, were my thoughts. And so I said, well, what I was thinking was that to try another IUI. I told her that over these few cycles when I have not been able to try, that I still do the OPKs to monitor my ovulation so that I could become increasingly more aware of what my body is doing. And I noticed these over these few months, and I guess especially like the last few weeks with doing the thyroid medicine, that I had been starting to ovulate back at my normal time frame. A few cycles back, I ovulated, or I got the surge, which is what triggers ovulation on day 8, which is early. And I'm already a person who tends to ovulate early, but that was really early. So I was telling her that since then it was day 11, and then the next time I had a surge for 2 days. It was 11 and 12. Which was good, but I also told her I was still continuing to measure my temperatures. And what I've been seeing is that even though I'm getting the surge on day 11 or 12 sometimes, it's not showing the temperature increase for a few days later. So I'm thinking, like the doctor had mentioned before, that even though the temperature rise does show that ovulation occurred, that maybe I'm a person whose temperature rise doesn't occur right away, or it could be that my temperature rises right away, but maybe my surge, maybe it's harder to know when I'm at the peak of my surge. So for like one cycle, I only had the LH surge for one day, and I would do the OPK more than one time during the day just to get an idea of what was going on. And like one cycle was one day, so I would have had the IUI the next day if I would have been trying. However, the next cycle, I had the LH surge for 2 days. So if I would have had the cycle the day after the first day, that maybe would have been too early, especially since I'm using frozen donor sperm. Because perhaps that was not really the peak of the surge. Maybe the peak of the surge was not until the following day. Maybe I caught the beginning of the peak and then the end of the peak, with it being on 2 days. So if I would have got the IUI based off of just the OPK, it might have been too soon. So just noticing, the fact that when I get the surge and then when the temperature rises is not being consistent every month, I felt like, it's kind of a guessing game, even though the OPK is telling you when. I think that with me doing IUIs and not getting pregnant, the old-fashioned way, by baby dancing, as people like to call it, that I think I would benefit more from doing a monitored cycle. So I told her that my thoughts for the next cycle were to do a monitored IUI, and with the new donor sperm, which I never got to use. I've never got a chance to use the new donor. And that since I would be doing a monitored cycle and paying more money, just as a refresher, if I've never mentioned this before, my insurance does not cover this. I'm lucky that my insurance covers most of the testing and like the blood work, but it does not cover the ultrasounds that are associated with the monitored cycle. It does not cover the IUI. I don't think anybody's insurance covers sperm. So, I'm paying, significant amounts of money, now, especially if I'm doing a monitored cycle. So I said, if I'm going to put the money out for the monitored cycle, what's another $10 for the Clomid? So I might as well get the Clomid to increase the odds a little more. So I told her that was my thoughts. So then she kind of agreed with me. And then she was saying that, IVF definitely has a greater benefit. They're more in control of the process. The rates, the percentage rates for pregnancy are higher. However, right now, I do not meet the weight criteria. I basically need to lose about 30 pounds, which, it's not a lot in terms of, it's not like it's 100 pounds, but it's still a significant amount that can be challenging. But I'm going to try to do it. But as of right now, this moment, I do not meet the criteria for the IVF. And the reason she said they have the weight criteria is because they have actually done studies, women of different rates, and with the IVF, so many factors being within the control, in terms of, you know, did the egg fertilize? So, you know, you have eggs that were fertilized and, you know, I guess multiplying, or not multiplying, dividing properly, you know, being implanted in, you know, women who are overweight and people who are at a more healthy weight. And the overweight women definitely did not have as much success, even with other things being equal. And also with the IVF, for the egg retrieval, you have to be put to sleep. And a lot of, you know, the anesthesiologists, if you're over a certain BMI, are not comfortable with, you know, putting you to sleep in, I guess, in an office setting, I guess, as opposed to a surgical theater. So basically, I couldn't do IVF right now anyway, but she was saying if I would have been at a healthy weight, she probably would have pushed more for that, just because at this point, you know, it's been several cycles and I've not gotten pregnant. Each time I'm putting out money, and even though the IVF is expensive, all these cycles add up, and that could be expensive also, and like there's a better odds. She also mentioned having some concerns about perhaps the quality of my eggs, only because the ratio between my estrogen and FSH, she said it's kind of like a seesaw effect, that when estrogen rises, FSH goes down, and then my FSH is close to 10. FSH is kind of the, I guess it helps figure out, you know, how your eggs are responding to the hormones in your body. I think that's what that is. Don't hold me to it. You know, look it up yourself to be sure. But it's one of those fertility hormones labs that they test. But anyway, it's kind of like a seesaw to the estrogen. And my estrogen number was a bit higher than they like. And it was also in the beginning. These numbers haven't really changed, but now that I've had a few unsuccessful attempts, they're kind of looking at it, the numbers a bit more critically. And she was thinking that maybe the higher elevation of my estrogen is making my FSH be a little lower, that in reality that maybe the FSH would be above 10 if the estrogen wasn't so high, which kind of indicates, I guess, my egg quality being an issue. So, she also mentioned, in terms in favor of IUI, a couple ways to look at it would be, you know, for a woman my age, if I were married, they would not even consider me as to having fertility trouble if it hadn't been at least 6 months of trying. And I've only had 4 IUIs, so that's not 6 months. Plus, of the 4 IUIs I had, only 2 of them, from her opinion, were really good attempts. One attempt, the sperm count was really low, and the other attempt, the last attempt, she thinks that the thyroid number was probably already too high by then. My opinion was that I also agreed with her that only 2 attempts were good, but I think it was different attempts. I agreed with the one with the low sperm count, but then there was another attempt, I think my second try, where I just really was not comfortable with the timing. I think a second or third try. But I think it was the third now. I was just really uncomfortable with the timing, and I felt like I missed the right timing for the IUI. And they assured me that I hadn't, but there's no baby here, so we'll never know, you know, who was right. But so we both agreed that even, you know, it's 6 months of trying, and I've only tried 4 times, and of those 4, only 2 were really successful. So she felt that there was no harm in me trying at least 2 more IUIs. She would not recommend more than that, because then that definitely would be 6 tries, and me not, you know, being pregnant. She said if it doesn't happen in the next, you know, trying 2 more times, that she would really recommend the IVF. And I kind of am in agreement with that, but I am praying that it will not come to that. I am trying to be really optimistic about this next cycle, and I'll fill you guys in a bit more on another video about all of my plans, all of the things that I'm doing. this next cycle to help it be a success. So, but anyway, I felt today's doctor's appointment was more good news, and we had the whole IVF, IUI discussion, and as for right now, I'm sticking with the IUI, and I will check in with you guys soon now and let you know when I'll be starting with my monitored cycle. So get ready for more TMI videos of me having my IUI done. And I will check in with you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye.